I picked 10 random watches, and with me today I have Adrian Taskin, our head of procurement. And I'm going to ask him which ones he would buy right now, which ones he would sell right now, and which ones he was going to hold, hoping that he could one day sell them for a higher margin, a higher profit. Adrian, how's it going today?
Doing well. How are you? How was your weekend?
Weekend was great. Very short.
Yes.
Definitely flew by.
Always is.
I'm sure a lot of business was done this weekend. I'm sure a lot of things were purchased, sold. And it's funny because you don't actually get time to enjoy the weekend.
No. Well, listen, we enjoy what we do.
You enjoy what you do. Correct.
Honestly, if I'm not working, I'm bored. You know what I mean?
It's funny. I was just talking to Peter about this whole thing, like being a watch dealer and how it affects relationships. I mean, it's really tough when you're like, for me, for example, I'm on my phone, I'm trying to like work on something, and my wife is constantly giving me shit about like, put your phone down,
Always.
Spend time with your kids, like hang out. And I want to do both, obviously, but like if you have a thought, if you're working on a deal, you don't want to like, all right, let me do this 3 hours from now. It's kind of like you have to get that thought out, or you have to.
I think it depends on the person and what they have going on in their lives. Obviously, if you have a family and you have kids you have to spend time with, or you want to spend time with, of course, then it becomes problematic. But I would say over the past 4 to 5 months, I've gotten it down to a science.
It's just time.
It's
segmentation,
being
time,
able, for
time management.
For a company that sells expensive time, how could I not make the best use of time?
Correct.
Because time is the most valuable thing that we have. So I think I've pretty much gotten it down to science. It's never, ever perfect.
Just wait till kid number 2 and 3.
Yeah. Well, so far it's the chemical compounds and the science experiment.
One-on-one is
coincide
easy.
with one child. Second child we'll have to make
one-on-one is easy. 2 and 2 is easy.
Yeah.
2 and 3 is definitely much more difficult.
I know, yeah.
All right, let's get into this. Again, these are random. I don't want you to look at it in the eyes of a watch dealer. You're not,
Very hard to.
I know, but you're not doing this as a business. You are doing this as an individual, whether you're a collector, whether you're an enthusiast, whether you own this watch, whether you're considering purchasing this watch, what you would do with it. So the first one that we have, and I picked some.
Let me ask you a question. Were they purchased at MSRP? Because that's a big thing, right?
Let's assume
Cost
so.
basis.
Let's assume so.
Let's assume they're all purchased at MSRP?
Because you are a typical person. No, I mean, typical is also, that's an exaggeration. You are an individual that was able to purchase this from an AD or
MSRP.
from, yeah.
Got it, okay.
And you're currently the owner or you're looking to get into this watch. First, and the watches I picked are higher end watches. This is not your typical, just OP type stuff. I wanted to get your feedback on this because this is the type of stuff that you deal with on a regular basis.
Yep.
You would know the market for this better than anybody else. First one is the Rolex GMT-Master 2 116758 SANR, also known as a SARU.
SANR. SARU have rubies and
Rubies. That's right. Is that not rubies? Oh, is that?
No, those are sapphires.
Oh.
So this is the they have two versions of this. They have with diamond lugs and without diamond lugs. This is obviously showing with diamond lugs. Now, again, we're talking about assuming we paid MSRP for them.
Correct. Current market rate.
Yeah, so the current market rate on this piece is pretty much, I would say, about what the MSRP was on this watch back in the day, because the newer SARUs, so to speak, the GMTs that are diamond set are a little bit higher in MSRP. I would say that if I bought this at MSRP, it's hard to say because I don't know what's coming. I don't know what I have in the collection.
You have it set for 100.
Yeah, we have current market value is about 100 grand.
Correct.
Just retail face.
Correct. I would say sell.
Sell.
Yeah, and I'll give you my overview on the sell because to me it's not necessarily that there are better options for that price level in terms of diamond set GMTs or Submariners. I just feel like, to me, the watch is not that special to hold long term.
Okay.
And it's just that simple.
What do you mean?
Because it's just
compared to other watches?
In comparison to other watches.
Okay.
Like I'd rather have a rose gold SARU, right?
Okay.
With rubies in it. I think it's more valuable. The problem with a watch like this, I always find, is if you take a regular yellow gold GMT, which they make like this, a 116718, essentially you can do that to this watch.
Aftermarket,
you can do it aftermarket, and the average person won't tell the difference. So when there are watches like that, I always tend to listen. You can make the same argument with the Rainbow, but Rainbow's a little different because at 100-something thousand retail, they trade for 400. Yeah. So that's a key.
Which is funny. I wonder why. If you can aftermarket the same thing, get the same look, same feel.
Yeah, I mean,
does it lower the price? If it's aftermarket?
Of course it lowers the price.
Yeah, of course.
So there you go.
So in that case, I personally feel that although I really like the diamond lugs, it could be replicated pretty easily, and it's not that special in my eyes, although it's a pretty watch.
Which is funny that this one does not, get so much over its MSRP.
Right.
I mean, because again, it's very limited. It's hard to come by. It's not something that you're going to be able to pick up at any AD or any given time. So what makes this any different than a Rainbow?
Well, listen, you're comparing a GMT-Master 2 to a Daytona, right? So there's that.
Okay.
Daytona's the king.
Yeah.
And then this, although I believe at the time was off catalog, it was much more accessible than a Rainbow Daytona.
I got you.
They would probably make 20 of these for one Rainbow.
Okay. All right, so the production was higher on this.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the next one. The next one is the King, which is a Daytona. This is the 116598 SACO. Current market value, we're looking at approximately $130,000, retail facing.
I find that valuation to be a little bit on the strong side.
It's
right.
This is taken from an existing listing on a website that is
By the way,
trustworthy.
we should do a podcast on Chrono 24 listings.
No, this is not from Chrono 24.
I'm just saying in general where we
actually, it's funny. We just talked about it, and you should take those prices and drop them by about 15%.
Well, we can actually do an example.
We should. I thought we did that once, where we actually just picked them out. And
we
say,
can do it again because there's it's always changing.
What I can't figure out about Chrono, and why is there such a large variation, like such a big gap in pricing? You'll have the same watch for 20, then for 24, you'll have like a one-off for like 40,000. Somebody just fucking shooting arrows in the dark.
Yeah, I mean,
darts in the dark.
We've covered. I think we've covered this topic pretty thoroughly, but it's always important to bring it up to the forefront. Chrono 24 is a platform that anybody can list anything on, right? So you have the discrepancy between people listing stuff. So it's also a time thing. Some people leave listings up from old market prices, which could be high or low. Or if I'm a broker, I can put up any watch I please, leave myself enough room to negotiate in case somebody is looking for the watch, and then fill the order. So I leave myself that gap.
It's funny. So I was doing research for one of the podcasts, and 9 out of 10 are around the same price. And then you have one that like stands out. And again, it could very well be an old listing. It could just be somebody fishing. It could just be, but some of them are just like ridiculous. These watches are going for 24. Everybody's around that number. And then you have one for 50.
Yeah. It's a time thing. I think Chrono 24, I think they've gotten better, but overall they don't really have that well curated of a process in terms of listings.
That's an improvement that they could make. They can actually
put a timer on there.
We just had a conversation with a platform creator that we're considering going in with. They actually ask you to set the time to a random time on the watch and take that picture to verify the fact that you actually have that watch.
That's a good idea. That's a good idea, but also to have like a timer set on your listings where let's say it's 30 days.
It should expire.
And then so I don't think it should automatically expire, but there should be a notification that pops up say, hey, do you still have this watch? Yes,
that's what
yes,
eBay
no,
does.
No.
Yeah.
So okay, so
what are we doing with
going
this?
Going back to the Leopard, this is a very, very interesting one, and these are very rare and hard to come by. And especially if you have the most important part about the Leopard or the Beach Daytonas, for example, is having the full set as a special box and everything. And that strap is actually extremely difficult to come by. To me, it's a hold if I'm a collector because again, this is even more rare than a lot of other off catalog stuff, and it's probably the turning point for Rolex where they went really bold. You know what I mean?
Super bold.
Which is
like unwearably bold.
So, which is not really there.
Who do you imagine wearing this watch?
Well, I've sold a few of them before. Who do I imagine wearing the watch? I mean, Nicolas Cage has one.
Nicolas Cage is pretty,
he's pretty eccentric, right?
Quirky.
So this is a very eccentric piece, and what I do like about it is that it is unisex. So, I mean, if you're a man and when you're wearing this watch, I think you definitely have to have some type of the personality to fit it. I couldn't wear the watch, but it looks great on women. Also with the SACO bezel, I think it's a hold because anything from the greatest brand ever, which is Rolex, I think that's undeniable, and something that rare, it's always a hold.
Okay.
Now again, I don't know if it's a hold for future value, but if you're a real collector, it's a hold as a pride of ownership.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go hold on the Leopard.
Okay, cool. Let's move on to the next one. I got a couple of Richard Meals lined up. RM23 AJW White Gold WG. Current, again, I don't know how strong this is, but current market value approximately $180,000.
180?
Yeah.
Very, very strong.
Yeah.
Very strong.
What do you see them going for in the market?
They're RM23. So an RM23 is one of those models where the problem with the watch is it's one of those situations where it's neither here or there. So it's kind of in between an RM5 and an RM10.
Yeah.
So smaller case size. It's an older model. The biggest gripe people have about the RM23 23 is the dial.
Just it's hard to read.
It's not that it's hard to read. It's just uglier than normal, right? RM23s for me are a definite sell.
Sell.
Yeah.
Okay. Especially if you got it. At MSRP.
Like literally in a tonneau K shape. I'm not like in a tonneau K shape. RM23 is the biggest dog in my opinion.
Really?
I would take any RM5, any RM10, any RM29, any RM30.
How about in different metals?
They didn't come out with too many. So they had RM23s and titaniums and white golds and rose golds.
Yeah. Is the rose
Diamond
would the
set.
rose gold be less of a sell or?
Rose gold would be. I mean, generally speaking, rose gold is always an easier sell. There's more demand for rose gold. I would say overall, but nevertheless, an RM23 is a sell for me.
And assuming somebody
Especially
wants
at
to get,
180,000.
if somebody wants to get into one of these,
Yeah.
what would you recommend? Their market price be? What
I
do
would
they?
recommend them buying an RM10. I say no to the RM23.
But okay, so there are customers for like the RM, like the dizzy.
If
hand,
you really like
the
the
dizzy
di-
hands
oh,
ones,
yeah, well, the dizzy-
there's a market
okay.
for those, which means there's probably a market for these as well. Somebody wants it,
Well,
right?
but so the RM, the dizzy hands is an actual very interesting and unique complication where you're actually getting some type of value there, and nothing else really like it exists. This is a basic to no K shape in which they've made, like I mentioned before, various models. So unless you're really, really into that dial and you love those Roman numerals and it's a little bit funky for you, yeah, you want to be under 150,000 for sure buying that watch. But again, RM23, it's a sell for me.
So,
Yeah.
moving on, we have the Bubba Watson America's Edition.
All right.
Current market value is approximately $320,000.
It's a hold.
Huh?
For sure. It's
That's
a
a
hold,
hold.
for sure. Hold for sure. This is actually one that's near and dear to my heart because I was actually able to buy one at MSRP back in the day.
Wow. Did you?
Yeah.
And you didn't hold.
No, it didn't hold because who would have thought at the time? I think it was like 100. What was the retail? Maybe 110 or something. Wow. And we sold it for maybe 10 to 15,000 profit at the time.
Again, who knows?
Yeah,
Hindsight.
you never know, but absolute hold.
It is a beautiful watch. What are you saying? Like, what's a good market price if you are looking to get into one? Is it the 325 or
Yeah,
is it?
yeah. I think this is called the Red Drive.
Okay.
Okay, RM55. Is it the Red Drive? Because the Dark Legend is the one
just have
with
the
the
America's
NTPT. Yeah, it's the America's Edition, but it was called the Red Drive. White Drive, Red Drive. Yeah, the America's Edition.
Okay.
I think if you can find one under 350, it's a buy.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Good to know on that one.
If you're really in the market for it.
I mean, it's a beautiful watch. I don't see why, somebody that's in the market for an RM wouldn't choose this one over a different one. But there are a ton of options. You know what I mean? Like every one that I see is nicer looking than the next one. You know what I mean? So it's I have no, if I was in the market for a Richard Mille today, as far as financially, I want to spend 350 grand on a watch. I want it to be a Richard Mille. Choosing one is really just aesthetics. It's really
That's all
like,
it is.
there's
That's all
nothing
it is.
else. Like, I don't care about the complications. I'm not fucking racing a car. I'm not flying. I'm not doing this. I'm not Arnold Schwarzenegger. Like, I need the compass and all that shit.
yeah.
Like, I just want it to look good.
Yep.
This, looks great. But there's also a bunch of them to do.
Yeah. No, that's a good one though.
Next one we have is the RM60 Flyback. This is not the Arnold Schwarzenegger one, right?
No.
Current market value is about 135K.
RM6001. Yeah. Okay. So no, this is a sell.
Sell.
This is a sell to me.
How much do you
especially if got it
think?
at
How much do you think
MSRP.
somebody should be selling it for?
Around the 100 mark. Okay, so this is one of those situations where the profit margin for a dealer who's buying this watch is bigger than a tonneau shape RM with the same price level. The RM
harder to sell.
tonneau shape one is obviously a much easier sell. This RM60 is quite big. It's not really what people are looking for in terms of RM, even though the watch does a lot more. And I actually tend to like a lot of these rounder ones. But this specific one in an RM60, they just make better versions. They make a St. Bart's version with different colors that just looks better to me aesthetically. Okay. And the retail price on these today is actually very high. The new 60s, it's like over 200,000.
Wow.
So again, this is a piece that they made you buy to get something else. So this was always a packaged piece. So this piece is always to be purchased at a discount.
If that's the
Sharp
case,
discount.
if they made these kind of, I guess almost knowing that they're dogs compared to their tonneau ones, what I mean? Like that's what everybody wants. Why even make them?
Oh, that's the leverage. Think about it. You can't have all the hot stuff because if you have all the hot stuff, then it just doesn't become hot anymore. It's the same thing with it's essentially the Ferrari model. Ferrari started that model. Then it went into Hermes bags, right? You walk into Hermes, you can't get a Birkin.
Correct.
if they supplied everybody with Birkins, it would lose the allure of the Birkin, right? You have to buy the scarf, and you have to buy this, and the kitchen set, and whatever, in order for you to get allocation of the Birkin. It's the same thing.
It's just
Not every
like-
Rolex can be a Daytona, otherwise the Daytona would lose its allure.
It's a way of like upselling, really.
It's exactly what it is.
Whereas Mercedes now is trying to go in the opposite direction. They want to stop making C classes and E classes. They only want to sell S classes. Like that's their thing. They want to sell their expensive model, their most luxurious one. They would rather sell less of those than more E classes and C classes, because obviously I'm assuming the price is there, the margin is there. It makes more sense. Maybe that's the right way. I mean, who knows, really?
I think it's hard to compare a car company with a watch company, because what happens with your car is they can upsell you on various different things within the car itself, after sale, warranty, after sale service, financing that they do. So they have multiple verticals within the sale of one car.
Yeah. Now they're going to
With the
start
watch,
selling you.
buy the watch, and maybe you service every 5 years, which RM's not making any money
So
on.
they're going to start selling you a subscription for like heat seaters or seat heaters.
Oh, I heard about that.
Like you want your seats to heat.
crazy.
You have to pay $15 a month.
That's crazy. But,
Let's move on to the next RM. We have an RM33. Current market value approximately $105,000.
Okay.
Is that on point?
I think it's high,
High.
but around there, let's say, depending on the condition of the watch. Again, this is just one of those just off the beaten path RMs where you have to really be an RM connoisseur to want this watch, to not be seen, to not really be noticed, and kind of just know that you're wearing something from the brand.
It's
and
like a humble
low-key.
flex.
Yeah, it's like a humble flex. But again, if you're going the round case version, like an RM, like this RM33, I would prefer Dizzy Hands. I would prefer even the RM3302, which is the NTPT version with the gold size. I think that's a really cool
That's a
watch.
nice one, yeah.
This one just never really did it for me.
So if you currently own this one, you're saying sell.
So if you're not, better question, the better thing to say is if you own it and it's not getting a lot of attention or a lot of, if you're not really wearing it a lot, sell it.
Or
going
trade it in for the 02, the 3302.
Or trade it in. Yeah.
If this was to come into you, somebody trying to sell it, give me a range. How much would you pay for it?
I'd probably pay 70 grand for it.
70 grand. And
Yeah, at the most.
we'd probably sell it for less than 100.
Yeah.
Well, way less. All right, let's move on to something a little bit more, not as flashy, I guess.
Okay.
We're going into the Vacheron Constantin Overseas Dual Time 7900V.
Yep.
Current market value approximately $40,000. Is that a
That's high today.
That's high.
Yeah, they were.
so
over
some of this is
40,000.
what some of our competitors are selling them for,
What?
which means they are just pricing it high.
Yeah, again,
This competitor is known for pricing higher, but I figured, you know what, I'm going to use them as a resource for this because I don't want us to be the only resource of pricing. I want to show what other people are charging for watches.
Yeah.
What would we sell this watch for today?
I could tell you what we sold one for last week. We had a 7900V brand new that we sold for under 35.
There you go. So market is around 35, let's say.
Say around 35. I just don't see people paying those type of premiums like they were before.
Mm-hmm.
The VCs they kind of followed suit with AP Royal Oaks at the peak of the market, and
Yeah.
they started to slide down as well. And the difference is, I would say Royal Oak, I would say the basic time-only Royal Oaks,
Yeah.
41 millimeters, are still bringing a healthy premium over MSRP,
Yeah.
whereas the VCs are really not.
I just feel like the Royal Oaks are a lot more recognizable out in public.
Yeah, they are.
Like
They
people,
are.
when you see it on a wrist, you know what it is.
Yeah.
This is more questionable. Like what is that? What is the?
Well,
outcome?
I think most people in the watch, in the watch world, so to speak, now they know what VC is, and
Yeah.
this is always one of our better sellers from the overseas, the dual time, especially with the blue dial.
Mm-hmm.
I think it brings a lot more character than just a basic 4500V. I always like the dual times. I actually prefer them to the chronos and the time onlys.
Okay.
I just think it's pretty cool, and I like the black ones better than the blue.
I like the matching band.
But yeah, look, if you can get it at retail, that we're talking about buying these watches at retail,
You
I
hold?
like it. But yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
If you were an owner of this and you wanted something fresh and new, what would you trade that in for?
In VC or in general?
I'll just say in general.
At a $35,000 price point?
Yeah. Again, if you take a Royal Oak, you might have to add a few bucks, to get something, significant.
I would probably trade it for the new 43 millimeter Offshore in a pre-owned condition.
Love them.
Love
them. Yeah.
I just recently got wrist time with the titanium blue, which is a good comparison here, although it's a little bit more expensive than this. Yeah, that's exactly what I would trade it for.
Yeah, I'm obsessed
It was
with the taupe.
so comfortable, so light on the wrist. It had great wrist presence, and all at the same time. You know, people are trying to scale down from the bulky watches, and I am too. I'm not really big on bulky watches. Sometimes I like them, sometimes I don't. But that piece, that's the 26420 Ti. So it's the 43 millimeter with the blue dial titanium. Super comfortable, looks great on the wrist. Interchangeable strap. That's what I would trade for this.
Okay, good call. Let's move on to Patek Philippe Annual Calendar Chronograph 5905P. Current market value approximately $68,000.
So this one, I think you're low on the approximation. So the 5905 black.
Again, so the price that I'm quoting here is, I'm assuming there's some sort of like, condition to it. There's a condition, there's box, there's papers, there's year. Right. We don't know any of that. I'm just using listed price off of somebody's website that, again, is somebody that's dependable, somebody that's trustworthy in the industry. I'm not just using like some bullshit website. But this is what they had this watch listed for.
Yeah, it's 59.
And again, I don't know whether it's missing anything.
Yeah, 5905P black.
You have one in your collection. You also have sports watches. This is your dress watch. What do you do? What do you do?
It's a really good one. It's a really, really good one. Now, I would say overall, sometimes the 5905, and this is coming from people that have them that I've sold to, and the overall feedback is aesthetically beautiful watch.
Of course.
For the value in it from a Patek Philippe, you're getting a platinum case, you're getting an annual calendar, and a chronograph. So there's a lot of bang for your buck there. People complain about the thickness.
Okay.
If for a traditional dressy Patek, it's
just too
little thicker than average. So that's a tough one for me. I was on the black dial 5905P. I was never
the blue one is nice.
Blue one, yeah. 5905P blue. I would say that over the black one. Yeah.
So
I feel like
what kind of trade would that be? What would I be adding if I was to trade this into a blue?
Well, funny enough, they discontinued the black one. So actually, on the market because of lesser production, they bring about the same.
Okay.
But I would say probably within 10 to 15,000 would be the difference.
Okay. Might be worth it if you have a black one and you want to get into something just nicer looking. The blue one has that like gradient dial. It's really, really like aesthetically
platinum and blue or light metal and blue really pops. I feel like the black can get a little bit, I would say, boring.
So you're actually saying the call on this one is really a trade.
Yeah.
It's not even a hold. It's not a sell. Trade it for something else that might be thinner, might have more of a pop to it as far as color, might just look a little better.
Like for me, I would, because it's kind of owning a 5905P black and the purpose that it gets for most collectors is probably not something that they wear every day. Even though I'm a proponent, you can wear a dressy watch with a with a hoodie.
You could be an executive that wears a suit every day. This might be like
right. So even though Patek Philippe is my favorite brand of all time, I would much prefer for the money a Datograph.
Okay.
Langenson. I think that it's a better watch.
Better watch how?
I would say the finishing is better. I would say because I've gotten wrist time with both. The other one has a better wrist presence. Okay. I think the dial's prettier. I think the layout aesthetics are just better.
What are we looking at financially?
More special. So for a Platinum Dato, we're not talking about perpetual or anything like that. Platinum Dato up, down, you're going to be probably looking for a $20,000 up. And I'm talking about the Platinum Dato up, down. Because they have two different versions. The Platinum Datum up down, I would trade this for that. Because two platinum cases with the black dial, with the chronograph that more or less serve the same purpose. Okay, that's what I would trade it for.
And it'll cost you an additional $20,000.
About.
Okay, that makes sense. Let's move on to an Audemars Piguet Royal Oak Offshore Chronograph 26238 Ti. This is the blue, the green. This is the green. Yeah. This is the one you were just talking about. Has a good...
No, so I was talking about the 43 millimeter.
43. Is this not a 43?
This is a 42 titanium, so this is one of their newer ones. The 43s have the chronograph at 3, 6, and 9.
I gotcha.
The subdials, I mean. I was never a big fan of this one.
Why?
I think that it was boring. Even though I like green and I like AP, something about it was boring. I feel like if they added a little more color and flavor to it, it would just pop out more. We don't get a lot of requests for them. And this is a tough one where... From a business perspective, you can't buy them cheap enough, and yet at the same time, you can't sell them too expensive.
So current market value I have from a competing website is about $48,000.
So that's high.
Yeah.
Like today, if I was buying a Swatch, I'd probably pay $35,000.
$35,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow. I think it's a high MSRP.
Jeez.
For what it is.
Yeah, I mean, they haven't reinvented anything with it.
I would much rather have the Gulf blue.
Yeah, we just
than this.
had that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That it's a beautiful looking watch.
I would much rather have that than this, even though this is titanium, and I usually prefer titanium. It's lighter, but
green was all the rage at some point.
Yeah.
Like that light blue is very specific. The Gulf blue, it's a tough one to pull off, I think, because it's not like a dark, heavy blue. Like that light blue really pops. It really gets a lot of attention.
It's got a lot of character.
Yeah, you would have to be the type of person that is okay with that sort of attention.
Yeah, I mean, now if they made the bezel green ceramic, like they had, like they've done for other editions of Offshores with green,
they look.
I would say that's a keep. It's just lost. Like it's not special to me.
It almost looks like a rubber clad without the rubber.
I mean, they've made 25 of the same looking versions of the Swatch, the 26170s.
So what are you doing? You selling it?
Yeah, I'm definitely selling it. We're trading it.
What are you trading it for?
For the Golf.
For the Golf.
And probably having to top up a good 15,000.
Okay, yeah. The Golf is going for that much?
Yeah.
Wow. All right. Final one we have is an Audemars Piguet code 1159-26393OR. Current market value approximately $33,000.
So if I own this watch at MSRP, my AP AD shoved this up my butt. Said,
in order for you to get the offshore.
You need to buy this to get this, and it's kind of like one of those pipe dreams, and then they disappoint you.
Are you not a fan of the 1159s?
I am a fan of the 1159s. Actually, that's not me talking shit on it. It's just like I don't think that there's any reason to hold it for the future, unless you don't want to get burned by your AD. In other words, like they make you buy it, and then most people don't want it at MSRP. They want to sell it off, get their money back so they can get the piece that they want. And then you know where the problem comes in? They sell it to somebody, and somebody on the gray market goes to register the card, and then they get burned. And they just lost, if they paid MSRP, they probably lost 20% of their money, and now they're stuck with nothing. So they have code chronos that I like. You said this is an OR, so it doesn't have the ceramic sides. So they make this with ceramic sides, which is nicer. They make a few different versions.
Yeah, I like the different dial options that they have. I mean, this one specifically, again, I just pulled this randomly. It is supposed to be a dress watch in sorts. I mean,
I like. There's a lot of aspects about it. I actually do like the way the crystal, how they engineered the crystal on the watch. I like a lot of the aesthetics. I like the open case back. I like the actual gray fume dial. It's actually a very beautiful dial if you see it in person. I actually do like the strap with it. It's just one of those where I wouldn't hold because there's nothing to hold on to. You know what I mean?
Unless you're just in love with it.
Unless you're just in love with it, right? So if my year is over, my grace period with AP, I'm going to go sell this off and get something else.
What are you selling it for? How much can you get for it today?
I mean, you're going to be getting, let's call it 30 grand.
What's the MSRP? Do you know?
MSRP is close to 50 probably.
Wow.
It's a high MSRP.
And if I wanted to actually just go out and buy one today, I'd be looking at what, 40 grand, 45?
Whatever MSRP is, they're not going to discount it in the store.
No, not from the on the gray market.
We sell these pretty regularly in the high 30s probably.
Okay.
And again, it depends which variation. With this specific one, which is the basic rose gold case, not the ceramic case, I mean, we were selling them in the high 30s.
I mean, I like this one because it's a really good mixture of dress and sports. You could wear it both with a suit or with a sweatsuit.
I like it a lot more than average people like it, because I kind of understand it in a lot of the code line. In other words, what AP used to do is used to create the millenaries and the jewels pieces, and they were just dogs, and I still think they're ugly. Sorry, Roman. I know Roman's going to talk about how great they are.
I mean, they are.
The bottom line is they're ugly.
Yeah.
Sorry. It is what it is, right? With the codes, they were pretty cool watches.
It's funny, when they first came out, people were like, oh, what the fuck is this?
Yeah. I actually, a lot of the new ones that they came out with the tourbillons and the skeleton turbs, really dope watch. And Kevin Hart kind of brought those to the forefront. And I saw him wearing it, and I did a little bit of research. Incredible stuff. Now this, not a bad watch. Really not a bad watch. Something I would wear for a little bit and trade off. And if I paid MSRP of, let's say, whatever, let's call it $45,000.
Gonna take a loss.
I would take my losses, and based on what the current market value, what I think I can get for it, I would probably put it into, damn, I That's a tough
Well,
one.
before you answer that, what do you think you can trade this in for that would give you that same combination of sports and dress?
That's exactly what I'm thinking, because there's a million watches I could rattle off right now for that price. I would trade up for an Oyster Flex Daytona.
Okay, that's actually perfect.
You know, I would trade up for.
Size is a little different, but it's a perfect.
It's a little bit bigger.
comparison.
It's a little bit bigger, but it's a comparable piece where it's something that you can kind of wear with a suit, or you can wear it daily. That's comfortable. That looks like it's valuable in some capacity. It's a precious metal. So I would trade the coat for an Oyster Flex Daytona.
I don't know if I would, because I like the date. If Daytona's had a date,
that's true.
Hey, it's
that's my one gripe with Daytonas. They don't have a date.
Yep.
But what's good about all these pieces, like these codes or these Oyster Flex Daytonas, is that there's so many of them on the market where it just becomes fun. Like you have it, you trade it, you buy something else, and you can continuously turn it. So there wasn't really anything from the options other than the Leopard Daytona where it's just like that you show me, where it's like, oh, I must hold them. Mm-hmm. They're all watches that you sell it, you could always get it back.
Let me ask you a question. This is off topic, but you just brought that up. Take a Daytona Oyster Flex, different dials. Is there one dial that stands out as far as price more than others?
Well, meteorite for sure.
Forget, nothing special. I'm talking about the combination of like black with yellow gold or whatever.
The most valuable Oyster Flex Daytona, not meteorite, is yellow gold, yellow dial, black subdials.
Okay.
Or otherwise known as the Pikachu.
Okay. I like the opposite. I like the Paul Newman look, the black dial with the yellow gold subdials.
And it's not a preference of mine. It's just the market price on that watch.
I wonder why.
I think, or I've heard somewhere, that it's because there was a very famous Chinese celebrity that wore it on a trade show maybe, or something like that, and then the prices of
one of their crazy TV shows that they do all the wacky shit on.
Yeah, exactly. So the Pikachu is the most valuable Oyster Flex Daytona. That's not a meteorite. Yeah.
Okay. So if you were trying to get into that from something else, you would be paying extra. Otherwise, pretty much in line with each other.
Yeah. So if you paid, so in a actual market scenario where somebody has a Pikachu, let's say, in the same condition, same year as this watch, you're probably going to be looking to pay at the minimum $15K on top.
On top of this?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
For essentially the same watch minus a date. Mm-hmm. From Rolex versus your AP. So,
I mean, if you're going with a chronograph, Daytona is the one to go with. It's
yeah, for sure.
Like, kind of makes sense. All right, that wraps up our 10 random watches. If you like this episode, if you like the numbers, if you like the details, make sure to let us know. Comment, like, subscribe. If you're listening to this, I hope we did a good job explaining them. Because you're not actually seeing any of these. But write a review for the podcast and let us know what you'd like to see or hear more of. Otherwise, we'll see you next time on the Gray Market Podcast.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you.